Jews have a tendency to become comedians. I mean, if you look, particularly in America, if you look at Seinfeld, Adam Sandler, Jack Black, Larry David, most of those guys tend to be Jewish. I mean,
why?
I think from a history of persecution, you have to develop a sense of humor. There's ways of coping with persecution, and one of them is, humor.
But you didn't feel persecuted, did you, in London?
No, not really. But I think you come from that tradition of, there's an emphasis on comedy within Judaism. So how did it come about? I don't know. I mean, the first joke ever documented, I think, is in the Bible, where Isaac's real name is it means he laughed. So he laughed at the concept that his wife was going to become pregnant. So, maybe that's the origin.
And do you worry about anti-Semitism now?
No, I mean, I don't think there's much anti-Semitism in England. I think relatively compared to certain other European countries, it's quite minor, and I never really experienced much. It was, it was
very... You poke at it, don't you? You poke at it quite a lot to see what rise you'll get out of it.
Yes, I mean, listen, the great thing about the characters is that they can, expose things that, let's say, a documentary finds difficulty in exposing. So I remember the first time I went out with Borat, I was actually doing a cable TV show at the time, and there was a fox hunting demonstration, a demonstration for fox hunting. And I went out, and it was the first time I'd ever done Borat. He was called Alexei Krikler at the time. He was from Moldova, and I was doing this on a cable show for LWT. Right. And I was going up to people going, you hunt the fox in Moldova, we hunt the Jew. You would like to hunt the Jew? And and some of these members of the upper class were going, oh yes, it would be a rather good idea. I wouldn't mind hunting the Jews. And I suddenly thought, wow, this... by being this kind of foreign character where at the time they thought, all right, this will never get shown in England, they don't mind sort of going along.
I am for free press, fair elections and equal rights for women. I can't say that.
Why are you letting yourself be interviewed as Sacha Baron Cohen?
That's a very good question. Probably a mistake. But I'll tell you why I haven't done it as myself beforehand. Basically, when we were doing the Ali G show, from then onwards, I realized that the moment I went on air and started, talking about, oh yes, I set these people up, there were photos of me, there was a chance that the interviewee would see the interview and withdraw consent for the TV show. So, it started off at the beginning of the 11 o'clock show, went on through the Ali G show, the same for Borat, where the studio were terrified that, somebody at the rodeo would say, hey, wait a minute, this guy's fake, I was duped. And then they'd, prevent the movie from coming out. So it was really to protect the comedy and protect the movie.
On your mark, get set!
This film was conceived before the Arab Spring.
Yes, that's interesting.
Yes, so...
Why? Why The Dictator?
Why The Dictator? Well, I had always found Colonel Gaddafi hilarious. And I wanted to, sort of do a character that was inspired by him. And you had all these other ludicrous characters like Turkmenbashi, who was the president and dictator of Turkmenistan, who renamed, I think, the day Thursday and the word for bread after his mother. And when his doctor told him to give up smoking, he banned smoking from the whole country because he didn't want to be reminded of cigarettes. And then you had, someone like Kim Jong-il, who claimed to have hit 9 holes in one in his first ever game of golf. And obviously Colonel Gaddafi, who had these kind of 30 virgin guards, dressed unintentionally like a 60-year-old woman, and would often break wind on, when being interviewed for the BBC, as you know.
This is a guy who's murdered thousands of people.
Of course, I think the word is ludicrous. They're vicious and yet ludicrous. Dictators, because they are all powerful, end up becoming these kind of, larger than life, absurd characters. And obviously, anyone who disagrees with them is executed. In our film, our guy, Admiral General Aladdin, if anyone makes any kind of flippant remark, they get the head chop. And he ends up destroying his own nuclear program because over an argument over whether the nuclear bomb should be pointy or round. He thinks it must be pointy, it must stick in the ground, it cannot bounce into Jordan.